Traveling to and from Milwaukee is pretty difficult, and it certainly has become more difficult in the last 10 years. It's also, so I often get asked the question, why do you stay in Milwaukee? And there's probably a twofold answer. My wife's from Milwaukee, and she's been here for, all her life. And although she went to school elsewhere, she always came back, and Milwaukee became home. When I came to Milwaukee, I swore I'd live here a year and leave. The airport was that bad, and this was 1982. My feelings haven't really changed. I still think every time I go through the airport that this is my last trip through the airport. But I think Milwaukee offers an awful lot of positives, and particularly as you raise a family. It's not a great environment to raise money, and it's not a great environment to go out and start a business. But what I found is, once you actually do that, people who support you through thick and thin. So, and recognizing that businesses go through ups and downs, and you need that support when you're down to your last $10. That's what really kept me in Milwaukee, is that it isn't how you start out, but how you finish that matters around here. It also keeps you very grounded. So being out in Silicon Valley and raising money there, I realized that there has to be a fabulous story that you have to make up in order to attract attention. In Milwaukee, it's the opposite. It's the truth. It's about a real business. It's about what are your financials? How are you going to make this work? And if you actually do that, people do end up supporting you here. So despite the constraints on travel and the fact that I might have to make 3 stops to get to most places that I want to, I'm always optimistic that this will be an environment where air travel will once again change, and I'll be able to travel to places without having, the inconvenience that I currently go through. It's interesting for me that you talk about mass transit, and having spent a lot of time in Europe now, and certainly India had a lot of mass transit, but Europe in particular is very good. I think America suffers from the fact that our cities outside of the really large ones don't have mass transit. I spend a lot of time in LA, and many times, 23 miles is 4 hours, and it makes you wonder just what could be done if you had mass transit. But it requires a commitment to infrastructure, and Milwaukee has, at least since I've been here, never really committed itself to having true mass transit. We do have the bus system, and it works, but not to the level that it perhaps should. So the struggles with trains, light rail, the ability to just get around in downtown without having to drive, those are things that I think would be powerful changes to Milwaukee when we actually implement some of these projects. So, but I have to tell you that, when I think back to my first experiences coming to downtown Milwaukee in 1982 and what I see today, and the diversity of restaurants and the diversity of Walker's Point and Fifth Ward, yeah, it's a great place to stay. So I think it attracts younger people, and I'm glad for that. Milwaukee has an interesting set of priorities when you think about the combination of education, racial segregation. One of the things that strikes you when you come to Milwaukee, at least when I moved here, was how racially segregated the neighborhoods were. It's certainly better and it's different, but it's not where anybody, normal people would think it needs to be. But these are steps, but I think education in particular, there's a vast difference between the ability of charter schools and private schools to educate our children and the public schools here. And you find yourself in the suburbs as a solution, if you will, because you want your children to have the best education. And I think that's sad, because I think Milwaukee needs to really focus on what it is its public schools can offer and how it can raise the children so that they can compete nationally and internationally. Not all of us have the money to go and make those choices. And those of us who do are going to gravitate towards making those decisions outside of Milwaukee. So it hurts Milwaukee.